What's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk about a mechanic I think is actually not talked about too much, and I wanted to talk about bursts and how different and important it is in Guilty Gear Strive compared to other Arc Sys games. So when Strive came out, there's a couple mechanics that have been in basically every Arc System Works game that changed quite a bit in this game. Primarily instant block, the way the corner works, and gatlings were like the big three. Normally in Arc Sys games, you can go from one to the other basically with no problems because these things all carry over between the games. Guilty Gear Strive was the first time in a while where it got shaken up quite a bit. But curiously, one thing that people did not complain about was burst, because burst has actually changed quite a bit in Guilty Gear Strive compared to other previous Arc Sys games. In Exerd has a pretty typical Arc System Works burst. So there's two applications just like Guilty Gear Strive. You have your defensive burst to get you out of combo, and your offensive burst to get you meter. So there's a couple of things about each of the bursts. So let's start with the defensive burst. So one is 18 frame startup. This means there are quite a few simple option selects you can use against bursts in this game. Generally, the main one being that if you have a move that's faster than 18 frame total duration, you can use that to block bursts. So here's an example I'm going to use. So I'm going to be doing 2P, but instead of crouching, I'm going to hold down back so I'm blocking. And on the second input, I'm going to start holding kick and then mashing punch. So what this is going to do is that the moment my 2P doesn't come out, or it just comes out once, I'm going to start flickering faultless defense like this. So it's going to look something like this normally. And then see how it switches right away? So I'm going to be pressing like this. And you see how it immediately switches to be flickering. One more time with the recording. I don't have to do it that way though. I could just press like this and link every time and I'll still get it. Now, another thing about the burst though is that you have the ability to tech in the air. So in Guilty Gear Strive, you just fall. You don't have control over your air tech. But in this game, you are able to act immediately out of the air into whatever you want. So even though the combo breaker happens, both players go right back into the action. So why is this important? Here's an example with Zato. So I'm going to have Zato here burst, and then he's going to immediately summon. So he's going to defensively burst and then try to get out Eddie, which he wants, and try to establish neutral control right away. So if it was like Strive, then this would happen, and then he just has it, and Eddie's out, he can do whatever he wants. But because of being able to move right away, I'm able to get right back in and take Eddie out. This makes the burst situation defensively quite neutral. Obviously, matchup nuances going to play a part and positioning on the screen and all that, but the main thing is that the person who got bursted is able to act, and the person who bursted is just has a little space, not too much, to just immediately enforce their gameplay. So then you have a gold burst here, and similar to defensive burst, you can act right away. So even though the defender is getting a full bar of meter right away, the person who got gold bursted is able to act right away. That's the really, really important thing. These points are common in basically all Arc System Works games. Strive has the same type of burst. Strive has a defensive burst and an offensive burst. The defensive burst, same as before, and the offensive burst also fills the bar, same as before. Now, the biggest obvious difference is this. You recover on the ground and not in the air. This is a huge deal. This makes burst a much more powerful asset for a character if you have something that can attack from this range, something that you have time to set up for this range. The one you've seen for sure, for example, is the Sword Super. Another rather strong, rather reliable one is... So the really big thing here is that you're able to take advantage from your bursts in this game as opposed to previous Guilty Gear games, Persona, BlazBlue, where it's somewhat neutral, very much more dependent on matchup what actually happens. Because again, not all characters are able to take advantage of this in a very good, very direct way. As far as the knockdown happening on burst, this has not been in games for a very, very long time. The last time, to my knowledge, this has been done, that's right, we had to boot up the 360p glasses is Guilty Gear XX Slash, I believe. So the version after this, Accent Core, I believe is the first time that you were able to tech out in the air, and honestly I think it's for this exact reason. So we have an example coming up here. So you have Anji Venom. Anji's gonna get this combo here. RC the burst hard knocks down. Venom has time to set up in neutral. Anji has to get all the way back in. Words cannot describe how ridiculous the situation looks to be as a more, not only like for modern fighting games, but even when I started playing Arc Sys games, because I started in BlazBlue, and to my recollection, definitely not in CS. I actually don't remember for CT because the bursts were so bad, whether or not you could just regain offense totally from you bursting. There's not just the knockdown factor though. The other thing is about what they did to Blue Burst in this game. So you remember from Guilty Gear Xrd that the bursts are the same speed, they're both 18 frames. But in this game, the blue burst is actually faster, it's 14 frames. So the common change that people know of is that the bursts don't go as high as they used to. This is also a feature that's in basically every single Arc System Works game. But because the burst is 14 frames, to my knowledge, the fastest total duration move in this game is 15 frames, meaning that there is nothing that's fast enough to just beat burst just with that alone. So it's both blue burst is not that easy to bait, and it gives you a knockdown, which is a major change. Again, I think both of these really affect how the game is played. So starting with the one we just talked about, with blue burst being harder to bait is good overall. So one, it means that you can actually get out of bad situations. That's a really good thing about it. Between it not going as high and it being hard to bait with just buttons, this makes it so that when you want to get out of combos, you can get out of combos. In previous games, characters might have like burst safe routes that you either may not know about, or if they're trying to end you, just jab, you could check it. While it's good when you're doing it, it sucks when someone else is doing it to you. So it's nice that you have that out. They even went as far as making a very subtle change that I don't think it was talked about too much. If you're a Geo player though, you definitely felt this change, where if you burst on one of these heavy counter hits, you can burst the super flash, where actually in the previous patch you could not do this. So again, it's just another way to make it so that people aren't locked out of defensive bursts. I think that's all well and good, but on the other hand, I really don't like how people get advantage from these situations, and it's not like a true neutral situation. Because it's from knockdown, that means characters that can attack easily from full screen have an advantage situation, and characters that have problems getting in are putting themselves in a disadvantaged situation by bursting the opponent full screen and then being knocked down. I think the reason why people didn't talk about burst so much compared to instant block, the Gatling changes, and the wall is because those other three were really blatant and immediately affected the game, where burst was basically what we were used to. We have a defensive burst, we have an offensive burst, and the management is really similar compared to previous games. But as time went on, I was like, man, like when some characters gold burst you, like you're in such a bad position. And of course that happens in other games. Like if in another game a character gold bursts you and just gets 100 meter, they're way stronger. The difference is at least you would reset to neutral, where in this game you can kind of think of it as a total huge momentum shift. Let me know what you guys think though. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.